be a librarian?
Me. I kind of
We
still am.
get to be a librarian.
Mm-mm. I I don't identify as a librarian, but I actually am by degree.
Well, there you go. And then tomorrow is your day because it's National
Yay.
Library Workers Day. I don't know if that counts because you're not currently working in the library. But
No, but I think it's a good topic to do because currently there's conversations going around that are libraries no longer needed in society
I think that,
because so much is online. They absolutely are.
yes, please.
Yeah. Like if you ever think how important the library is, they are so important to society.
I mean, if not only because it's a building that has books in it,
Well, yes.
that in and of itself.
Yeah. Yeah. But I did my degree well in the millennium, the change of the millennium. And I learned I sort of did a library degree and I learned how to be a librarian. But what I was really interested in was information. How does information get passed on? How does it move? How is it documented? There were people that absolutely loved
That is very surprising to hear that you enjoyed that. Yeah.
sharing some dark secrets here. But
Mind
I think
blown.
in my library course, everyone had a different part of it that they loved. I
Hmm.
just have to love information, but other people loved archiving. Some loved historical books. Some loved the space of a library itself, and learning about the Dewey Decimal System and archiving and all that. All of that stuff we did together, but we all had different elements that we really loved about it.
Mhm.
And I think over time, preserved written memory has been instrumental in society. But I think that people feel like just because it's online now that the internet's taken over that concept and we don't need the concept of librarians anymore because the internet does all that stuff for you. But I think there's such an important space for that historical documentation to not be lost.
Yeah, but also
Concepts
I
behind
think,
it.
but also just like to me, like I have an e-reader
Mhm.
and it has a ton of books on it, and I find it very convenient. But also sitting on the sofa with an actual book is a very different experience, and
Yeah,
I personally prefer the actual touching of paper, right? Like
yeah,
there's a tangibility to that as opposed to this. But
yeah,
um uh, but also to me libraries are also, where we meet other people. I saw an ad
yeah,
the other day that I saved because I have to look into this, but they're looking for people to come and read to children because so many children are developing language
yeah,
uh, problems because their parents aren't reading to them, right? Like, and that's, I'm not dissing the parents, by the way. Don't hear me say that, please, because I know life is hard and
yeah,
and people are busy and they have to earn their monies so that they can pay for things that are becoming increasingly expensive.
yeah,
So all of those things I understand, but also like I remember um being read to and how joyous that is, right? Like
yeah,
I used to read so much as a child. um I mean, there are many instances where I just fell asleep with my head on the book because I
yeah,
was still reading and then fell asleep. um so I think there's and if we as a community can then come together and say, hey, these parents are so busy to do
yeah,
all of this stuff to provide for their families as well, right? Because that's also important. We also want them to feed the children.
yeah,
So if we then as a community can come together and read to the children and help them with their language development and give them that sort of input into fantasy and creativity and imagination, right? Because that's what it's all developing. You, me and Tony talk about this all the time because Tony uses that
The
the
magic faraway tree.
thank you, because that's not part of my upbringing, obviously, because I grew up in a very different country with a very different language.
Mhm.
But but there's these stories that have shaped us, that have and books that have shaped. Like my favorite book as a child was Matilda. Uh,
Mm.
I mean, I now understand very many reasons why, but anyway, but that was my favorite book, right? Like
Yeah.
I would just read that again and again and again, and like there's these stories that and maybe you can't remember the details of that book that you read, um, but it's still sort of resonating in your mind. And I think that libraries are such an anchor point for the coming together of story and community and like you say, memory, history, right?
Yeah.
Like and the internet is just kind of a toxic fucking place where people scream at each other all the time. And
Yeah.
that happens less in libraries.
Yeah. I'm getting excuse me, I'm getting flashbacks. So I grew up in a farm in Australia.
Uh-huh.
And I went to a primary school that had, I think we had about 30 kids.
Mm.
And we had a small library in our school, but we'd have a book bus that would come every
Yeah.
week. And I still have my book bag. Mum made it for me and it's got my name on it. And, it's about that big. And I go to the book bus every week and get my set of books for the week. And I have such fond memories of that experience of doing something like that. And then for prizes at school, we'd get books. And so I've still got these books that I went,
Oh,
with
I wish I
being
still
written
had all
in
my
them.
books. I got rid of so many books. I moved house
Oh,
so many times that I at some point,
yeah.
and I got so many sort of scathing remarks that we lived in a library because apparently that was not
That is
anyway.
not a bad thing.
Mm. So now I have to sort of just, but this is the thing, like I love being around books and I know that they also collect a fair amount of dust, but
Mhm.
but like I said, there is something to just sitting on the sofa with a book in your
Yeah.
hands and turning the pages and feeling the, and to me, that is much more of the experience of going into a world, right?
Mm,
Like I find that harder when I do. So my e-reader is like business books and stuff like that. Or if I really cannot wait to buy something or to read
mhm.
something, and I'm like, delivery 2 days from now? No. Uh-uh. No, we're
I
reading
need the
this
knowledge now.
now.
But my ultimate goal, like I know that I will have made it in life, is when I have a library room in my house.
Listen, my parents had a library wall in their house. They never read any of the books, but the wall looked great. And it had the little ladder that you could move around. It was awesome.
Yeah.
You'd walk into the living room through the bookcase. Like there was
Oh,
doors within the bookcase.
yeah. But I think
So that is
knowledge,
that is definitely a goal. But then without all the marble floors and blah blah.
yeah. I think what our worry is now is that people use AI to write books and claim that they're an author. And
Yeah.
you've got to be careful of the distinction between knowledge that is true and knowledge that is fake, essentially.
Generated.
Yeah, generated, yeah. And I mean, I know that people use AI to help write books. That's
It's
absolutely
fine.
fine. But
I also like I wrote my book before AI. I just want to say.
mhm,
Uh but also like I had an editor,
yeah,
right? Like and I think if you use AI now to help you edit your book, then great. I
yeah,
and it's still not the same as an actual editor, I want to say, because the human editor has a much better chance of understanding context
yeah,
and help you really structure it better. So I also just shout out to editors. They're incredible people.
yeah.
So but yeah, you can't just say like, oh, I'll give a prompt to AI and then that's my book. It's a tool and it's a great tool and it's very useful,
Mhm,
but it's not creative, it's
yeah,
regenerative.
yeah. And I think coming back to librarians, if you go
Oh
into a
yeah, that's what
library
we
and
can do
say,
it.
can you help me to find a book? If they get to know you, the books that they recommend will be very much customized to who you are and what you like. And I think that you don't always get that ability to have that context from technology. And it's a gift. It's an absolute gift. And librarians should be like bubble wrapped and nurtured for their skills and for what they bring to society.
Yeah, I think, I think what you said there is just true of humans, but
Mm.
um, like because this is also what I said about the editors, right? Like, and this is true about librarians, but it's true about pretty much everyone. Human beings can provide
Yeah.
content.